Hey guys, it's Matt here, and I would like to invite you onto my Saudia experience from Kuala Lumpur airport to London Gatwick via Jeddah. Bit of a spoiler, this actually ended up turning into a bit of a shit show. The outbound leg from KLIA was okay, but on the way back, on the flights that I didn't record, things got a little bit worse. But in the meantime, feel free to come along with this journey with me as we fly from Kuala Lumpur to London Gatwick on Saudia. We were straight off to a bad start with Saudia as their online check-in didn't work. They wouldn't let me pick seats. After about an hour of trying, I could get in and change my seats, but they wanted me to pay extra for a window seat. Check-in was pure chaos. I arrived at the check-in gate about 20 minutes before check-in opened, and as you can see from the footage, there was just millions of people everywhere lining up. And while checking in, this is where Saudia asked me to pay the 50 Australian dollars or 160 Malaysian ringgit for my window seat on the second flight, to which I was still confused on why I was being asked to pay for a window seat at the check-in phase. This will sort of explain itself in the second half of the video. After a quick walk around, it was time to catch the bus to the other terminal where my Saudia flight would be leaving. The train in between the two major terminals at Clear is currently under renovation and will not be open until 2024 from what I've read. I love Kuala Lumpur Airport, but at 1 AM it's a bit quiet. I mean, just everything seems to be closed or being renovated at the same time. And there she is, my 787-10-9 that I'll be flying to Jeddah tonight. Boarding was done by zones, and actually everyone seemed to comply with this pretty well. I didn't get too much boarding footage as it was a fully packed flight and I didn't want to cause too much hassle to everyone else. Saudia's 787 comes in a 333 configuration, which is pretty standard with these leather seats. When you board, you'll find you have this pillow and a blanket racked up. And the most impressive thing to me straight away was this leg room. This is world class on a 787. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. The crew was super friendly, gave me a big smile and a welcome on board. And my window has a pretty good view outside.
841 traveling to King Abdulaziz International Airport in Jeddah. Flying time will be 8 hours.
It was relatively warm getting on the plane, but that is no problem with these individual air vents. And as soon as we started the pushback, these hot wipes were handed out. This isn't something that I've experienced on any airline since COVID, really.
Federal Authority of Civil Aviation requires passengers to comply with lighted signs, posted placards, crew members' instructions, and the following safety demonstration. Please make sure that your baggage is securely stowed in the overhead compartment, and small items, including heavy items.
We pushed back next to this Malaysia Airlines A350 as Saudia played their prayer right before takeoff.
Safety reasons.
Bang on time, we departed KL on our way to Jeddah. So my game plan at this point was to stay up for dinner and then sleep a majority of the flight, and then hopefully wake up some point about 90 minutes before landing in Jeddah. So in the meantime, while waiting for the meal service, let's run through the ITV system that Saudia have on their 787s. So all in all, I was relatively impressed with the personal entertainment that Saudia provided on this flight. The map was super detailed. It gave you pretty much every statistic that you needed to know. And the selection of movies from Hollywood to Bollywood to Asian movies, and then the film that was also on the flight was plentiful. There is definitely no chance that you're getting bored on a Saudia flight with the amount of entertainment that was available. The only thing that I found wasn't working on this plane at this point was the personal reading light, and this seemed to be for everyone. As we look up, you can see there are no personal reading lights on in the cabin, even though the cabin lights are dimmed and it is completely pitch black. Amenity kits were then handed out. Relatively basic on this flight. You got your socks, you got your comfy sleeping mask, some toothpaste, toothbrush, and some earplugs to block some of the sound out. Then, to my great dissatisfaction, dinner was served, and it was just a chicken pie in a box with a small dessert. I wasn't too happy about this. Now it's time for my not Noel Phillips review. Please don't sue me, Noel. The toilet was pretty clean. This is still pretty early on in the flight, but being a 787, the bathroom was pretty spacious. You got your hand soap, you had some sort of moisturizer here, but really there wasn't anything super special about this bathroom. Been about 3:30 in the morning. I got back to my seat and it was time to hit the deck. Here's me waking up about 5.5 hours later after flying over India and crossing over Oman airspace into Saudi Arabian airspace in about 45 minutes out of Jeddah. Crazily, breakfast service was only just beginning. It seems to take an eternity for the cabin crew to reach me, and by the time that I was served my meal, we were already descending. So here's my meal, and here's us landing in Jeddah. That's how quick it happened. be perfectly honest, I probably would have appreciated another 20-30 minutes to have had my breakfast. I literally had to scoff it down as they were hastily trying to collect everyone's trays before landing in Jeddah. And for me, this is where the good experience with Saudia kind of came to an end for me. So this first flight for me was excellent. The hard and soft products really lived up to my expectations of what a Middle Eastern airline should offer. But boy oh boy, do I have a bone to pick with King Abdul Alaziz International Airport. Please don't kill me if I said that wrong. On first glance, this airport is massive and world class. But to me, there's so much that's just not quite right with it for it to be classed as a world class airport at this point. Firstly, getting through security again after the flight. Now this is fine. You have to do this in the likes of Dubai, Doha, Hamad, Muscat Airport. But I can't ever remember it taking more than 5 to 10 minutes before you're airside once again at these airports. Here, it took over an hour and a half to get through the security line. An hour and a half. I don't quite understand how you can build this massive multi-billion-dollar new airport and only have 4 security lines for international transfers. The temperature inside the airport was also incredibly warm. So you're standing in this jam-packed line with a heavy backpack on, sweating absolute bullets. Lastly, and this is probably the biggest one for me, a brand new terminal where the Wi-Fi doesn't work. I went up to the help desk to ask if there was any way to connect to my Wi-Fi without a Saudi Arabian phone number. And the lady rudely responded, "No Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi." I had to go to a cafe, buy some 40 Australian dollar pancakes and ask to borrow their Wi-Fi password just so I could check my work emails. But hey, here's the Queen of the Skies to cheer me up. Originally, today's video was supposed to be a comparison between Saudia's 787 and 777 product, as the Gatwick flight was booked under a 777. However, with my check-in debacle, I was beginning to suss that I was actually on another 787 to London Gatwick this afternoon. Turns out, I was right. Here is the exact same plane that I was just on from Kuala Lumpur. There was no law and order on this flight to begin with. I got to my seat 34A to find a family sitting in my seat. Normally not a problem, I just take another window seat. But if I've paid 50 Australian dollars at check-in for a window seat, I'm asking for it back. I think that's pretty fair. I was seated in a mini economy class cabin, just behind business class, an exclusive 4 or 5 rows, and I guess this is why the seat was more expensive. Was it any different? Absolutely not. The issue is that it turns out everyone on the plane had just got on the plane and picked random seats. And the cabin crew spent about half an hour trying to sort everyone back into their original seats and seat families together. This poor English family, with a single mother and 2 younger kids, almost ended up completely scattered across the aeroplane because people didn't want to sit where they'd been allocated. I felt pretty bad for the cabin crew, as you could see that they were quite clearly getting stressed and frustrated at the passengers. Anyway, now that we're off the ground, let's sit back and let's enjoy this quiet Saudia flight and enjoy some of the good movies that they have on their in-flight entertainment. Quite a few people have now asked why the IFE isn't working, and I've probably heard the flight attendants about 10 times say that they're going to restart. It's going to take about 10 minutes, but we're probably 40 minutes into the flight now, and still nothing doing. And contrary to the other flight, we have a special looking amenity kit from East Africa by the looks of it. So let's unpack this and see what's inside. So this is actually quite cool. We have an eye mask, which is in theme. Some cool socks with some aeroplane sticky things on the bottom, and then just your standard toothpaste or toothbrush and earplugs. And just to top off this situation, my Netflix downloads aren't working either. So we are now an hour and 15 minutes into the flight. And still no IFE. This is breakfast. So I went the scrambled egg option, which seems to come with a pork sausage, some mushrooms, which I cannot eat, otherwise I will literally die. Which isn't ideal at 40,000 feet, and some potatoes, coffee on the side, some fresh fruit, and some yogurt. And this is the view out the window currently. Well, what's going on here? What is going on here? So it's now about 2 hours into the flight. We've just had trays collected to conclude the breakfast service. The food wasn't too bad, but I couldn't eat half of it because of the shroomies. There should be a future episode where I just ate a whole bunch of mushrooms on a plate and see what they have to do. But yeah, I just went to the toilet up the back, and the plane is quite messy. I didn't even bother doing a loo review, as Noel Phillips would say, and it was so disgusting in there. I don't think the previous 4 or 5 people had flushed in front of me, so I can't really be putting that stuff up on YouTube. And then walking down the aisles, there was literal full trays of food had just been thrown on the floor. I don't think I've ever been on a flight with so many kids on it, so I kind of feel bad for the cabin crew, as they're obviously quite under the pump. And the cabin crew is really nice. One guy who served me food was complimenting me on my moustache, so thanks for that, Cobber. The IFE is still not working. I got some of my Netflix shows to work, so I've got about 3 more episodes, which will get me about halfway into this flight, and then I'm going to be out. But we don't even have a flight map to look at, so I've got no idea where we are. So yeah, it's a bit of a rock and roll flight, this one. You can see that they're still trying to reboot it's just happened now, reboot the screens, but I think after 2 hours of trying to reboot the screens, it's not going to happen. So yeah, it might come to me having a nap in the second half of this flight and trying to beat the jet lag, but we'll see. So after a quick nap somewhere over France, we hit the coast of the UK and descended pretty quick into London Gatwick Airport. I don't actually mind Gatwick as an airport. Immigration took me all of about 35 seconds, which compared to London Heathrow is night and day. The only issue is you're a solid 20 quid train ride away from London. By the time we docked next to this 787 from Qatar, I was pretty tired of hearing kids screaming for the last 5 hours, so I pretty much put my head down, grabbed my bag, and got out of there as quickly as I could. So like I said, by the time that I got through immigration, which was pretty quick in Gatwick, I was ready to just get out of the airport. So I was staying at the Hotel in the South Terminal, which was essentially like a little sleeping pod room before I had a Wizz Air flight to Budapest the next day. I was never going to review the flight home, but I did want to sort of use the experience to see if my first experience on Saudia was consistent across the board. I always think it's hard to review an airline on just 2 flights. 4 flights is obviously a little bit better, but these are the only 4 flights that I've ever done on Saudia. But if you've had similar experiences to what I'm about to say, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. First of all, on the way home, I once again paid $36 for my 2 window seats up the back of the plane, which I think is daylight robbery. I believe you're already paying enough with the airfare to warrant risking not having a window seat when you get to check-in. I guess there's nothing wrong with charging at check-in. It's the airline, they can do what they want, but it really does leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I've never been charged check-in with Qatar or Emirates or Oman Air. This puts Saudia firmly behind what I would call the big 3 in this category. Once again, in Jeddah Airport, I now had a European SIM, so I was interested to see if I was going to receive the one-time password, but still nothing. So I just sort of walked around the terminal for 3.5 hours before my next flight back to KL. Once again, I had the same 787 on both flights. This was a 787-9, which had a different configuration to the 787 that I was on the first time, which Jeddah told me was a 787-10, but Flight Radar 24 said was a 787-9. I'm pretty sure it was a 787-9. It didn't look stretched enough to be a 787-10, but all the safety cards, if you go back and look in the video, say 787-10. So that's a bit interesting. But also, I had a different in-flight entertainment system, which you can see quickly here. And from memory, it had less movies and TV shows on this system compared to the newer system in the first flight. The biggest thing for me was when I got to KL, even though I had a 3.5 hour layover in Jeddah, my bag was gone. Saudia don't have their own luggage handlers, I guess, in KLIA. So I had to go to the Malaysia Airlines desk and find out where my luggage was. They couldn't find it. I had an air tag in my bag and could clearly see that it was in Jeddah. The problem was I then had a flight to Perth, where I am now, where I live, the next morning on Batik Air, which was a whole nother shit show by itself. And just quickly, Batik Air, which used to be Malindo, used to be great. They've fully lost the plot. I'd much prefer Malaysia Airlines for the same price over a Batik Air flight now. Anyway, back to Saudia. Anyway, I had to change my morning flight on Batik Air to the evening flight, just so my bag, which is, as a traveling sports person, my bike. Saudia do not fly to Perth, Australia, so if it did not rock up in time before my flight with Batik, God knows where my bike and the rest of my luggage would have ended up. But then Malaysia Airlines lost luggage is behind immigration. So for me to get my bag the next day, I had to go to a special desk, get security clearance, go through the staff entry, scan a pass, put my fingerprints in the system, leave my passport at the help desk, get lost, and eventually work my way back through the airport as you would normally do when you come out of immigration and customs to get back to my desk. All in all, it took about 2.5 hours once I got to the security desk to actually get my bag. Given that Saudia must lose a lot of bags because 3.5 hours for transit isn't enough time to move it from one plane to the other, this is a pretty crazy experience that you have to get security clearance to go get your bag at an airport. I've lost plenty of other bags on flights. Again, I fly quite a bit, so it's a thing that occasionally your bag doesn't rock up, but this was probably the craziest experience of having to go and get a bag that I've ever had. All in all, there was no apology or sorry that we lost your bag from Saudia, because again, I was talking to Malaysia Airlines staff who were as helpful as they could be, I guess, in this situation. But the whole experience has just left a really sour sort of taste with Saudia in my mouth. I'm not a big YouTuber. I do about 2 reviews every year. I'm not going to come out and say I hope this video changes things, but I just think there's such a long list of where Saudia could be better. In fact, I really wanted to like Saudia. I'm a big fan of Live Golf, for example. I'm a big fan that as a country, or from what I get shown anyway, they're trying to modernize and become part of modern society with some of their values and whatnot. I really had super high hopes of when I got on this plane that I was going to feel the same way as I would when I fly Qatar Airways or Emirates when I get off the plane at the other end. Instead, I was left bagless, pretty clueless, not knowing if my bag was going to show up before my next changed flight, and just with this long list of things that I think could be better. No Wi-Fi in the airport is just a big pain in the ass. If you have a flight cancelled and you're in Jeddah airport and you need to look at other options, you can't do it. I don't understand how you can only have 4 security lines for thousands and thousands of people at a brand new airport. You get to Hamad International Airport and there's like 100 security conveyor belts that you can line up and go through. And it doesn't matter if it's peak time in the airport, it takes 5-10 minutes tops. In Jeddah airport, I had sweat dripping down my face and there was no water, there was no aircon, there was no sort of real explanation of what was going on. And you're paying premium dollars for a premium airline. I don't understand how your in-flight entertainment can't work. It literally was working on the flight before. I don't know what goes wrong in that 2 hours between the KL flight and the Gatwick flight for the entire IFE to mick poop itself, essentially. So I've done a bunch of reviews before, and I think this is the first time I've actually not liked the airline that I've flown on. Will I give Saudia another chance? Yes. Like I said before, it's really hard to sort of judge an airline by just 4 flights, and their price point was what got me to fly them in the first place. For their flights from Kuala Lumpur into sort of any London airport, I guess, like Heathrow included, they were $400-500 cheaper than Qatar and Emirates. So I was like, why the hell not? Would I fly Qatar or Emirates if that price point was $200? I would definitely fly Qatar or Emirates if they were more competitive with their price on this route. So all in all, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. A bare minimum C pass. If you guys have enjoyed my little rant over the last 30 odd minutes, feel free to subscribe. I don't get paid to do this. It just gives me something to do when I'm sitting in a hotel room scratching my ass. I really look forward to reviewing China Airlines from, where am I going? Manila in the Philippines to LAX in December. So that'll probably be my next big review. That looks really exciting. I've never flown a Chinese-based airline outside of Cathay Pacific, which I have done a review on their A350 before, which you should be able to see up there or there. I'll put a pop-out banner. But yeah, feel free to subscribe. Until next time, thanks very much for watching and safe travels, everyone. See you later. Oh, shit.